Hello, everyone. Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day where we're always trying to figure out how to get the technology to do what we want it to do. So I am Mr. Carlton. I'm the creator of FMTrain.tv, and along with my merry, I would say my merry men, but that's not very correct anymore. My merry people, my Robin Hood and his merry posse, merry people. Margaret, I don't know what you would call that. So
I mean, posse's a fairly good description, I'd say.
our posse. We're riding the horses. So welcome to FMTrain.tv. We're doing great FileMaker things here. And mostly we're trying to help all of you be more awesome, more productive FileMaker developers and sharing ideas, showing solutions, hearing your questions, hearing your concerns, answering questions. It's kind of like a wild, wide open day today. And so today is a very exciting broadcast. Let's talk about a little bit of upcoming broadcast schedule material here. Margaret, if you want to move. Oh, that's my box. There we go. Out of the way. I couldn't move it. So real quick. So today we have deep dive with FileMaker bugs. We are going to be doing some kind of deep dive on the, in the presentation we did previously last week, I kind of skimmed through it because only like 3 or 4 pages of fixes. It's like a pile of fixes, quite a bit. And so today's more of a deep dive on that. Tomorrow, Monkey Bread, the monkey man himself, MBS will be here talking about custom functions running via plugin. I'm not sure what that's all about. Hopefully Christian has an idea. Are you doing awesome stuff tomorrow, Christian Schmidt? Is it going to be fully awesome? Is this a correct description? Hopefully it is. Honored to be presenting. Yes, he's a great guy, quite talented. Reminds me of a kind of a Jacob Taylor, but like a little different. And then Thursday is going to be an interesting conversation. Moki's already told me to kiss his ass because he ain't going to go down this road. But I think it's useful and educational to, Claris is asking for feedback on the quick authoring. And quick authoring has some utility uses for very senior developers because it allows you to do an ad hoc solution faster than you can do it otherwise anywhere else. It also is the onboarding process for people who are interested in low code. So the progression is people need a custom solution. They like, oh, well, let's do like no code. We just drag and drop. And they expose that a little bit. Then they start doing low code. They do little scripts like you want to go to a screen and print the screen. The code it's not a bunch of command line stuff. It's not / / Linux / drcr, whatever, sudo su, kiss my ass. It's the code is go to that screen and print that screen, literally 2 lines, right? So very simple, low code. So I think Thursday's interesting. Once again, if I had a little bit more guidance from Claris on that, that would be wonderful. Clarice, do you have any guidance for me on what we should be discussing? No. Okay, so I'm out here without a rope and without a net, just kind of winging it. So Friday, we got Kyle Williams going to be back talking about whatever he does. He's going to be talking about 4 different rich text editors. So if you want to do like fancy editing, like almost kind of like Microsoft word processor kind of editing in FileMaker, these are kind of web viewers that allow you to do that. I want to welcome everyone here. We got a bunch of people here. Today is an interesting conversation. And we have a lot of good content coming up. And then next week, it looks like Nick is, my understanding, I'm going to give you kind of a verbal update on what's coming up next week. So Nick is going to be on, but Monday is a holiday, so it's going to like move back a day. Margaret should have already done that already, but she missed the memo. So Monday's a holiday. It needs to say one of those days where it's here, Margaret, but it's a holiday. It's not happening. So day 1 of the gallery stuff will be on Tuesday. Here's the thing, what's going to go on. I'm going to give all of you a quick verbal on this. Some of you bought FM Gallery. A couple of you done that. What's going to happen is the basic version of FM Gallery, which is the one that's been in market now for a couple of years, is going to become free on Monday. It'll be a free thing that you can have, unlocked, all that kind of stuff. Nick is working on a pro version of the FM Gallery. The people who have paid, we really appreciate the investment. We appreciate the money. You're going to get the new one for free, plus a live stream webinar about that. What they'll call it the pro one. So there'll be a free one and kind of a pro one. But before he gets to the pro one, he is actually working on FM Starting Point, the neomorphism update. It is in progress. According to him, he just finished reworking the custom theme for the neomorphism starting point. So this would be starting point 21 for the year 2021, right? And it's kind of tuned mostly for 19.3. We'll have to see what it works with and doesn't work with, but I assume anything with 19, it'll be fine. maybe even 18 is fine, just depends. So a lot's going on. There's a lot of stuff coming, and Nick's kind of back. You have to buckle your seatbelts for that. But that'll start Tuesday, not Monday. And so that's that. Then upcoming, a real reminder. So it's people ask about this. They say, "Hey, Richard, how's it going? Thanks for the live stream, all this great free stuff. Can I kindly ask reminder that if you have our FileMaker training, keep it up to date, renew it, please. This helps put money in the piggy bank. I actually just paid this morning $1,800 just for the Boxcast software to be boxcasting, broadcasting to all the people on Twitch and YouTube. This stuff ain't free, and I have to write checks and pay for Margaret's time and Jacob's time and pay for all the people. And so we need to keep the money coming in. So as a reminder, if you want to support the channel, even if you hate our training, but you like the live stream, but just buy one of the bundles. We greatly appreciate it. We have a bundle that comes with FileMaker 19.3 on it, Mac or Windows. That's the one on the left with a lot of other goodies on it. And then the one on the right is the one that's video only bundle. We really appreciate that, the help. It helps keep the lights on. We greatly appreciate that. So any other comments, questions here before we get rolling too aggressively? Margaret, we have any other aggressive conversations?
Nope, it's a lot of people saying hi. There's actually a lot of people that are active in Twitch and YouTube today, which is kind of
that's good. Jacob Taylor, are you ready to take command, take control? What are you doing?
Sure. Yeah, let's share.
I have to quit sharing my screen. I'm going to stop sharing.
There you go. Yep. And I'm going to share back. Dun, dun, dun. And we're going to do a very basic little PowerPoint presentation. At some point, I'll probably get our company template, but I don't have it yet. So you get a white background for the moment. So
and then that's good. Go for it. That's great.
Yeah. So basically, what I wanted to cover today, and this is why I've said I'm very pleased with 19.3. Yes, as everyone asks every time I'm on stream, no RCC has not yet endorsed 19.3, which is the go for it that most people are looking for. That is only because it's still Tuesday. I have not done any 19.3 installs that we're not, testing and that sort of stuff. Again, we've seen no issues, but the other end of we've seen no issues is we're going to cover the ridiculous number of bugs that they have fixed in this release. Every one of those bug fixes is also a potential source of a new bug, actually. If you're super familiar with software development, you might understand that concept pretty easily, actually. But and so even what we were talking about before we started the stream, in Discord with part of the community, we were going over some of the bugs that have been reported that are being publicly talked about by Claris themselves. And a bunch of them are related to these bug fixes, the performance improvements that they've made. Just whenever you do stuff like that, you can kind of unearth, you fix one thing and you unearth another issue later. And you might not always find that other issue immediately. And so we're all going to jump on 19.3 at whatever time and rate that we do that. And some people are going to find some of those issues. And so we're at 19.3.1, and it's very possible that at some point we'll get a 19.3.2. We've heard nothing about that, but they're already publishing bugs that people have found, immediately after release, and assuming that they're going to continue with this, kind of quick-paced bug fixes and, mix of features, mix of bug fixes, mix of performance improvements type stuff that they've been talking about, this agile development concept. I'm expecting, we don't know when, obviously, but at some point they'll probably cut a release with some of those issues fixed. So,
yeah, I would say 3 months, maybe a little bit less. So you just put it on your calendar. So there you go.
Yep. So I personally, I think that this release is very server fix heavy. And so I have 4 total slides of these fixes. We're not covering every single thing in detail, et cetera, but I could easily come up with 3 full screens of server fixes and 1 solid screen of FileMaker Pro kind of bug fixes and improvements, a little mix of the two. So I think it's really heavily weighted towards that, which of course I'm the server guy. That makes me really, really, really happy. I love to hear, we fixed all of these problems. It's an amazing number of problems fixed. Okay, cool. So starting one of the longest standing issues that I have had since I worked at RCC is the top one, which is when you've got FileMaker Server on your Mac, you're hosting usually on site, something like that. And maybe you have to either reboot for some reason, or even maybe you install an operating system update or something like that. And you've got to reboot the machine afterwards, and you're going to bring your FileMaker Server back up, and none of the web stuff comes back up. Web direct's down, web server, you go and look at it and you try and log into the admin console, and what shows up? It's working, which is not the FileMaker Server default database page that you all know and love when you go to the homepage of one of our servers.
Yeah.
So you'll see, let me just demo it. Whoops. Oh, and then I deleted it on accident. Ubuntu dot, there we go, take the port off. I don't need the admin console. You would be expecting to see this when you load up your server, and you see it's working. And so when you see it's working, that is what Apache ships with, which is what you use for the web server on Mac. And so if you see it's working, what that means is FileMaker Server is not the one that's driving the web server on your Mac. That means that your containers aren't going to work. Data API is not going to be routed correctly, any of that kind of stuff. And so they are confirming wonderfully that they have hopefully permanently resolved that issue. We had that a few times. RCC even had that a few times when we were still hosting our main server on site. And so a little extra double reboot involved sometimes would resolve it. I went in there one time, and you can nuclear disable the P lists for the included Apache, which would sometimes help, but not always, which was a little frustrating actually. But so I'm glad that they fixed that. This one's kind of a very specific issue, but other note later, one of the other slides, because this is a broader set of fixes. So one of the issues that happened on FileMaker Server, so we've mentioned, especially with newer versions of FileMaker, kind of as we've progressed over time, Claris has gotten a lot deeper with how records are cached. They're cached in Pro. There's lots of caches. I don't know if they're new caches, but there's lots of caches on server now. Various kinds of record caches. Some of them are in memory. Some of them are on the hard drive, etc. And so one of the issues that could happen on server, obviously, the disk can fill. You can fill your boot drive, or you could at least fill the drive that FileMaker Server is installed on. And so one of the challenges is FileMaker detecting that case. And so if you've experienced a disk filling event with, let's say, server 18 or later, I think is when they changed that, it'll automatically close your databases if you get under a gig of free space. And it's an oh shit, the server needs to close down for the safety of the databases, because basically, if you actually get close enough to the metal on how full your disk is, it won't be able to safely close the databases, and then you've just accidentally crashed them, and that's not good. And so one of those kind of corner cases that could happen is probably while it's trying to integrate that data back into the database, you could end up with a situation where the disk cache, that data wasn't being accounted for in the gigabytes free on the drive or whatever. And so the disk would end up filling kind of unintentionally, basically. And then that would mean that the cache that the FileMaker Server software manages deadlocks, because it can't, the operating system says, no, the disk is full. And so that would cause FileMaker Server to crash. And so this is a kind of a specific scenario that that we've called out here. But generally, there are a bunch of fixes for low disk scenarios, making sure, basically ensuring, in a more significant fashion, that the server is able to safely shut down and close the databases. You don't want that emergency scenario to happen. Obviously, that's always, it's always to be avoided if you can. However, if you cannot avoid it because that's what's happening to your server, you would like it to do something sane, which is to kick everybody out and to ensure that those databases are absolutely closed safely. If they're closed safely, doesn't matter at all if the disk fills, because your data is just fine. Another issue. Oh, do you want to say something, Richard?
No, you're good. I'm actually just enjoying this. I think, yeah, this generally the idea. And one thing I would say about the hard drive space is everyone thinks it doesn't apply to them. And then if you actually say that, I dare any of you to say that out loud, because then tomorrow you'll have this problem.
Yep.
And so it's like if you have if you're in a plane and the engine catches fire, you don't want everyone, it's like, hey, I'm sorry, this is Southwest Flight 152. We have an engine out. So there's in your overhead compartment is a parachute you can put on, just jump out the side of the plane and hope it works. That's kind of how this stuff has worked previously. The idea is to land the plane gracefully without killing anyone if there's a in-flight problem, right? So yeah, instead of here's a parachute, good luck, right? So, all right, next one, WebDirect.
Yep.
Oh, Ghost
WebDirect.
users. Oh,
Yes. So, and this has been a problem for, we'll just say, a while.
This goes back to the beginning of FileMaker. There have been these things called ghost users when someone is logged in, and then they're not there anymore for any reason. And you could have a pro ghost user, a go ghost user. So someone who logs in, they get disconnected or something funky happens, they reconnect. And the server doesn't realize that they're gone. It should, but it doesn't. And so it just leaves them up there as a connected user. It's just stupid. I don't know why this still keeps dragging on. But FileMaker Server 2, which was the first version of Server. For Pro 2, when I started in 1990 and 91 or 92, somewhere in there, they came out with their first server. And it would do this. It's been doing this. So for different reasons, obviously, but you get the idea. It's dumb. If someone goes away, they should go away, right? Not just become a ghostly apparition, right? So
Yep. And so, that, at least for WebDirect, for the moment, I don't know if it's solved or just significantly improved. There's also some memory management and sort of improvements. I think I cover another. There's two parts to that, basically. There's two parts to the memory leak improvements. One of them is specific to WebDirect. One of them is actually specific to the custom web publishing stuff, or what is it? It's Java web publishing. It's the core that is under both CWP and WebDirect, I think.
Okay.
And so there's some memory management improvements in there that will help it scale a little bit better. I don't know what kind of performance improvement that's going to give you, but less bugs, more memory efficiency. These things are always good. There is an interesting FileMaker Server backup change. So, and I guess this is probably stuff that's internal to FileMaker, because I've never seen any kind of log entries that would indicate something like this is happening. But it's interesting to know that it could. So it sounds like there was a situation where the backup system could, see old copies of the database in its backup directory. While the schedule's running, it's going to go look and see, and it does its little checks and does hard link updates and that kind of stuff while it's going through that process. So those the older ones they're called stale, which is they should be cleaned up. That would cause it to do a full backup instead of an incremental backup under certain circumstances. There was also another note I saw somewhere else where basically they had improved several parts of the progressive backup system as well, which makes me think I need to go revisit it maybe. Because I have been not turning it on for a while because it doesn't log, basically. My problem with actually progressive backup specifically is that I can't tell when they've run, or more accurately, I can't tell when they've completed. So since they run every 10 minutes or run every 5 minutes, and you say, okay, well then I can't use the latest one. I have to go one back always on progressives, and that would be a database up to 10 minutes old. Well, it's functionally free on most servers to run a backup every 15 minutes, and if you need that kind of recovery scenario, I'd rather we would set that up for you instead, because those 15-minute interval backups will always log and we'll always know which one ran last.
So we had to find out if progressive generates log entries. That's interesting. Okay, what else?
It did not previously. That's why we've not been setting them up on servers and advising clients about it.
Good
so
one.
Yeah, it's useful. Like I 100% love the thing. It's just when it's a recommendation guided by my hair is on fire and I need to make good decisions every single time with the least amount of information that could, that's weird. What do I do in that scenario? Like I want to reduce the amount of times I have to ask questions like that. And so with progressives, you have to ask that every single time, versus if I can just go look at the log file, assuming we have a log file. There's, obviously there's situations where that doesn't happen, but assuming we have a log file, you can always go look and say, all right, that was the last backup to run. And I can say that because FileMaker Server tells me that's what happened. So, so next bug, I'll call it 4 bugs. They've updated a bunch of the like undercarriage libraries that support the rest of FileMaker. Curl is your insert from URL. OpenSSL handles secure connections to the server and stuff like that. Apache Tomcat handles part of the internals, but I think the part that's important in it is it's part of the backing for WebDirect. I think it's actually the thing that like WebDirect is built within or something like that.
Yeah.
Or that delivers the Java web application that is WebDirect. And then JSON CPP is the JSON library that they're using for the get element and set element as JSON script steps. So those are all updated to very recent, if not literally the most recent version. Wonderfully, we now have the log viewer back. I can demo that very quickly because it's awesome. Oops. We have our log viewer. Yes, I have a really terrible password, I know. So you can go. This is on a 19.3 server. This is our Ubuntu one that we set up previously. We did our streams last week. You can pick one of these, any of the standard FileMaker, the access event, and then this is web presentation engine. We have no logs for the data API on the server because nothing has talked to it. But if we did, it would be in this list as well. And so you can just pick one of these. And this is a little bit ugly because my screen is small, but if you had a proper size screen, you'd be able to see all these things, and it's nice.
So Christian Schmidt from Monkey Bread says something that I was thinking about, that if you read the vulnerabilities on those libraries, if you go back to your slideshow on the previous item.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of security fixes in there with that curl, OpenSSL time.
Yes. Yeah, they were shipping a pretty ancient version previously. It's not as bad as some of the previous versions. Like they did update it once, I think in the 17 or the 18 round. But curl is one of those things where it is used so much, and it's actually a little terrifying because there's one dude basically that writes curl. There's a whole community of people that contribute to it, but there's like one guy who runs the software project basically, and he's like, it's like the joke of some dude in the Midwest with his little like project that he does on weekends or whatever. And it's interesting, but curl runs a lot. It also runs the insert from URL script step in FileMaker, but there's a ton of other software where I'm going to go talk to this API over here. And just like FileMaker having an insert from URL script step, what you're actually doing is you're calling down to curl and saying, hey, curl, go grab this data for me. So yeah, Daniel Vosgren or something like that. I forget his name. Fosberg.
Okay.
I feel like Monkey Bread's about to tell me.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, so we have the log viewer back. A solution to much consternation from people who would like to click buttons and get their SSL handled. We can now do the certificate signing requests again in the admin console that was last present in FileMaker Server 16 on the admin console, the same time that the log viewer, after which the log viewer left the platform. 17 and forward did not have a log viewer and also did not have a certificate signing request button. Those basically have both been restored or rebuilt, which is great. Oh, Daniel Stenberg. That's right. Yeah, the guy that makes curls, Daniel Stenberg. Thank you for that. And yeah, he's a really nice guy, actually. He's cool, but he runs a absolutely world internet operation critical piece of software. What do we have over here? Made a feature request to show all log files in log viewer. Awesome. That would be very cool. Yep. All right, cool. All right, so section 2, part of how the data API would acquire a database lock to read or write data happens significantly more quickly in 19.3. That honestly, frankly, terrifies me a little bit because when I've worked with the data API thus far, it is the most blisteringly fast thing I've worked with in FileMaker. It's basically back to the original question. If you're doing finds or looking up records or whatever, and your fields are indexed, it's going to scream. I've had no real limitations with it. However, apparently it can go faster. So And that's always good to see. And I wouldn't call this quite a bug, but it was previously kind of a waste. And so what would happen is when you like open up WebDirect here, I think we can do this with like a demo database here. We'll do FMI WebD. This thing should load up. Oh, awesome. We could use starting point. So one of the changes, sorry, we're on our landing page. We'll log into starting point here. Dun, 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 dun. See if this works. Should. Yes, I know. Thank you, Chrome. My password's bad. That's why it's yelling at me. All right, cool. So we have Chrome, or we have FMSP 20 on WebDirect. So one of the changes with 19.3 that's different from all previous versions is when I loaded up this page, the way that the database looks in both actually FileMaker and in the web browser here is controlled by CSS, like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, that CSS. And so one of the kind of issues or ways that you could have improved performance at least previously is that every time you load this page, if I did anything in here that like that does a new window script step, for example, it would load, it's going to, like even if we did a new window and it's the exact same layout I'm looking at right now, all that CSS would come back in because none of it was savable. It was all generated fresh every time you did a new window script step.
Nick had talked about that in WebDirect optimization, not to have people bounce. In other Go and Pro, it's not such a penalty, but bouncing, it was better with WebDirect to make a giant layout with a bunch of pop-overs.
Than ever do a go to layout or new window.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
And it sounds like they've remediated that issue, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and it's probably, I don't know if it'll be like quite up to Nick's standards or something like that, but conceptually, it is actually in two places where this happens. So there's a fix on the front end, which is where WebDirect interacts with your browser. So your browser is now able to save those stylings. And so if you, for example, go back to the same layout, you're like flip it, you have a process and you go to one layout, type some data in, hit your submit button or something, and it takes you back somewhere else. When you go back to that original location, that layout will come back up. It's the same one that you just previously accessed. Your browser does not have to reload the styling for that any longer. It's the same styling. And so that's awesome. That's a fantastic performance improvement. It would be, for any reasonable web designer, front-end engineer, they would be at least trying to do that generally anyway. And so it's great to see that. And if you're on any kind of a slow connection or like if you're actually using WebDirect on Android, for example, it would be horrific to try and re-download and then reparse and everything, all of that code every time. And so it will help significantly on that platform. The other place that this fix happens is it apparently used to be the case that all of that CSS was generated fresh, which is why it was, it wasn't savable by your browser for navigations between, I know it's like pages in your browser or whatever, but navigations between layouts. Apparently that stuff was all generated fresh every time you did a new window on the server side as well, which may have contributed to that caching problem. That also no longer the case. I don't know if that part of it is session specific or kind of the technical details on that. So I don't know how much of an amazing performance when it is on the back end, but even still, you should see solidly improved performance, if only because you are not sending all of that stuff down to the browser. And on desktop computers, that stuff doesn't really matter that much because you have fast computers. But if you're on a phone, don't do that if you don't have to. So, short version, don't do that if you don't have to.
Yep. All right, moving along.
Anything in Big Fish?
No, there's a kind of a conversation about Claris, I guess, did a FileMaker 19.3 video about 19.3, I guess, but it's Japanese specific.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, that's their, I think, second biggest market or something. So
yeah, they didn't do it in English, I guess. So it's interesting. So I mean, Moki was saying it was basically the same as what I did, but I'm pretty sure that that's not entirely an accurate statement. I don't know. Was Moki here last Wednesday when we did this? I don't know.
I wonder if we could get I wonder if we could do a machine translation of the video and see. That'd be cool.
Probably.
I'd
be shocked if they went out and
actually did that. Yeah. Showed building
They
an app
showed
in
building an
Safari.
app in Safari. Yeah, no shit,
Nice.
Mookie. That's the part yesterday that you said you didn't want to do, and you never wanted to be there and burn in hell, as I remember the conversation yesterday.
Yep.
So if I say it, it's kiss my ass, and if Claire says it now, it's all like wonderful and happy, right? So.
Yep, flowers and flowers and good smells.
It kills me. It kills me. There are people like that. I used to have to do. I had to buy bought dinner for these Germans one time, and I was explaining to them how something was working at FileMaker, and they said, "We don't want to hear you explain it. We want Claris to explain." I said, "Yeah, good luck with that." They don't have a dedicated team of people running around interacting with developers at a technical level. That doesn't exist. That does not a thing that they have, right?
They
have.
I actually know what that would be. They would hire a developer advocate. That's what that.
They don't,
that's
they
what
don't,
that
they don't
person
have
is.
one, right? And it can't be just one person. The community's too big. It'd have to be a whole team of people. But whatever, that's fine. All right, cool.
So, and one thing, I know those are like the first two are kind of like features or theoretic fixes. The third one is legit a bug fix, or what I would consider a bug fix. It makes Linux and Mac the same as Windows, which actually was interesting because I keep seeing stuff in FileMaker and FileMaker Server where the Mac is the fantastic platform, server or client, and in this case, apparently the Windows one was the more advanced. So so I mentioned, right, WebDirect, you can save your CSS now, so it'll speed up the changes between layouts and stuff like that, or going back. What it will also now do as of 19.3 is on Linux and Mac specifically, it now compresses all of that data when it's sending it to you. And apparently that only happened previously on Windows. And so again, that's a web performance improvement. If you're using WebDirect, you'll see benefits from that. Just end of discussion. So
if that's your server, right? If your Windows server, you already kind of had that to that degree.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. Next one, custom web publishing performance stability improvements, right?
Yep. So what this deals with is when custom web publishing is doing operations where you've asked it to do something, maybe you're using PHP or some other language, and you've reached into the XML API, for example, and you're like, hey, I need to get these records, or I'm going to run a find request, whatever. So while those things are running, there's a kind of an overarching management system for that tries to clean up stuff. The program's going to do, I don't need to describe actually what custom web publishing is doing in that scenario because it doesn't really matter. There's always going to be situations where you're fetching stuff, and that means you can throw something away. You're done with it. It doesn't need to be in memory anymore. It's cool. We're out. Previously, that was done in a way that could cause bugs, memory leaks, and crashes, and they've made significant improvements to that should allow actually additional performance, like both it goes faster and also scalability, which is to say it can handle more requests simultaneously by resolving that. And so there were actually several, I think at least one crash scenario that was caused by the custom web publishing, this overarching management thing that I'm talking about, going in and going, oh, someone told me that was free, but something else in the process was still using it. And so if the manager comes in and deletes that data, throws it out, gives it back to the operating system, whatever, that'll, and then your code's trying to use that data or something 2 milliseconds later, usually your app falls over or something very similarly undesirable. And so a set of those sort of issues has been fixed as well.
Cool. There was a couple questions going on, but it's not really relevant, I guess.
Yes.
Moki asked a question.
Minifying and gzip. Yes, that's correct, Moki. Yeah, he's asking about this. My bullet number 3, compressing JavaScript.
In flight, it's basically in-flight real-time compression, right? So
yeah, correct.
The computer can't be waiting for it to happen, otherwise it just trashes your performance. So it has to be
yeah, and there's a reason that there's better ones now, but historically everyone used a compression type called gzip. One of the reasons for that basically is because gzip can be told, I'm going to, rather than you hand it a file of data that's already ready to go and it zips it up and then whatever happens where it gets sent out to somebody. With gzip you can stream the data, and so you can say, hey gzip, I'm going to give you data and I'm not going to tell you when I'm done until I'm done, and you can just hand it, and so gzip will just go and so it goes out to the web browser or whatever, something out on the internet, we'll say, and it can do that in chunks, and you can just, you as the coder or you as the app that's creating whatever this data that it's compressing, you can just feed it more until you're done. And so I don't know if they're using gzip. That's very probable, since literally everything on the entire internet supports it, except for probably things that haven't been touched or updated since 1995 when it got integrated into web stuff. But so, but really, realistically, anything that you'll interact with will be able to do that. So we'll benefit as well. Let's see. There's an interesting record locking issue that got resolved. There's a couple things that I saw where there are multiple different kinds of record locking issues that got resolved. This one particularly is apparently multiple, like FileMaker Pros would try and go into the same record at the same time, and the server would not handle, who is supposed to be locked on that record at, and when or whatever. It wouldn't handle that correctly, and it could knock the server over. If everyone tried to access the same record simultaneously under some, I've never seen that bug actually, but under a certain scenario that could happen, and it would actually knock the server over.
That the bottom one there is that whole conversation about low disk space and better behavior, right?
Yeah, and then basically I just wanted to put that as kind of a summary bullet point. There's we'll say public and non-public issues that we have seen where just there's better handling of low disk space scenarios. I think it's still as it was, which is FileMaker Server only pays attention to the hard drive it's installed on. That's the thing I have to tell everybody. And also when you look at the admin console, it'll have let me show it just a minute. That's our web direct here. Ooh, how do we not have we don't have the close file option. Interesting. All right.
Because all you have to do is close the browser. The close file option is what you put on Go. Or Go.
Yeah, no, but there's like a little, I'm used to a little arrow being over here.
There should be a hamburger. Where's the hamburger menu up there? Oh, that is go to contacts, leave that screen, go to like contacts or accounts. Yeah. There you go. That's all. Because that is the there you go. There we go. Because we suppress that. Actually, go back to the other screen.
Oh, you can't do that. Interesting.
Yeah, see, I'm hiding the navigational controls, right? Maybe. So we hide that because we don't want people creating new records in the home screen, right? So. Yeah. Sorry, my phone keeps. But like I said, it's not FM completely done. It's a starting point. All right, what are you doing? You're going in circles really fast here.
I was going to demo something, and then I don't remember what it was because we started talking about
keep going. Just keep going because we're running out of time. Keep motoring.
All right. So page 3. This is a big breaking change, and we talked about it, and people have already complained about it. So know that Claris understands that you are mad about it. The data API, when you would fetch records that had a container in it, in the data that came back, you'd get a link to the data in that container field if it was a PDF or a JPEG or a whatever, and you could feed that to something that could read it in. It didn't need to log into the data API. It didn't need any kind of an authorization token, any of that kind of stuff. Basically, previously, that apparently is an oversight. Claris considers it a security issue that they have resolved, so I don't expect them to go back on that. People were asking for a toggle to use it one way or the other, or something like that. I'm uncertain that they'll do that, frankly, because they basically they presented it as a fix to a security flaw, and usually that doesn't get unwound later. So I find that unlikely. Anyhow, so it means that you can't feed those links to some random web service. For example, I saw some people had that had a flow. Some people had a flow where they would, get the link to an image or a PDF or something, and then feed that to a third-party web service or something like that, and then that thing could import the data. There are a few APIs where they'll let you give them a link to the thing that you want to bring in, and then that other company's software will deal with getting the data in. Another small change to the data API, when you get field information back, like you're looking at the metadata associated with a layout, you get the full field name. It's not just the field name itself now, it includes the actual table or TO that it's on, which is great for reuse if you need to be doing, read that information and then do something cool with it. So we'll see how that goes.
So Labo 404 was going, yeah, it confirms that we were waiting for V3, and basically this is like the V3 release. And I think I'm gonna have to update my farm. And I'm like, farm? Like, what kind of farm? Are we talking like growing cucumbers, or are we talking about like a server farm, right? And he's like, server farm. I'm like, okay, great. So we have customers who grow cucumbers and stuff, and they have to update their stuff too.
Well, and I was going to say, we have a couple customers who are nut farmers. We have one customer who's a sheep farmer, I think. So there can be plenty of different kinds of farms involved here. This is a great one. So we actually ran into this on a customer system. There were situations in which the FileMaker server installer just literally didn't work and would fail in hilarious and interesting ways if literally where the FileMaker server installer was located on the hard drive had spaces in it.
Yeah, that's I run into that with companies like 360 Works or something like that. It's kind of a bug you would get from a small company. It's not something you really expect from Apple, but there you go.
Yeah, so. They got it resolved. Let's see. I know. Yay. So, and then a couple little details. So some small improvements, basically. There are others that I didn't note here, but there are some small improvements to the FileMaker server upgrade. If you all have looked at the, go to the Claris website, go to support and downloads or whatever, where you used to go get the upgraders for either FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Server. They don't publish those anymore. And that is because the full install of FileMaker Server or Pro that you might actually no, is it just Server? Does Pro do an upgrade too? I don't know if Pro does upgrades. Wow, I should know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. Well, it's certainly Server because that's what I work with. So at least FileMaker Server installers, if you run them on an existing FileMaker Server install, assuming it's not too old, basically, it will do an in-place upgrade of all the stuff for you, which actually it's just a completely clean install and it brings your settings over. And so, for example, actually, if you do that with a 16 server, which Claris claims can happen, there are some things that you lose. If you do that, please go look at the documentation. That's all I'll tell you, because there's a few things that you'll lose in that, because they can't literally bring everything over. But as part of that upgrade process, if, for example, you've gotten rid of the sample database or deleted the FileMaker Server admin console link that it spits onto the desktop, it won't put them back anymore. It used to just put them back in the folder for you, helpfully. And then finally, server directory listings have been disabled, so that you can't go into random directories that are within FileMaker Server or whatever and list all the files. That was considered it's kind of a security issue. It's a low level one, but yeah.
Yeah, so Moki's asking, well, there's this Japanese video, right? And I think the Japanese FileMaker team is a very different part of Claris, would be my guess. The U.S. team, which is a team that I mostly deal with, they deal with Europe and North America, basically everywhere besides Japan and China, right? So they haven't done a release, and they had a preview version of my slideshow. They knew it was coming, but they. I don't know. I honestly don't know kind of the decision making down there. The only bits of data that Moki that makes sense about what they're doing is that they're overwhelmed and they have too much to do, right? And so they're not sitting around shooting videos because there's no one there left alive to shoot them who has any. The people I talked to down there working like 10, 12-hour days or more. And so it's like, they need some more depth, right, within their I don't know, whatever. I don't know if you call this support or customer outreach, because this is more of a developer conversation, but really it's explain to people why to get the new version and what to do, right? And so, yeah.
It's DevRel, developer relations, and
is that what you call it, DevRel?
DevRel, yeah.
Is that an industry term? Is that an industry term, or that's a Jacob term?
No, that's an industry term.
DevRel. Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah, developer relations and developer advocacy. Those are the two parts of that, basically. Advocacy would be somebody who'd be, for example, writing either improved documentation that might go in the Claris thing, but with examples, which actually is the thing that I still find lacking about Claris's documentation. They'll put, one or two little simple examples, but there are no like, here's a complete of this thing. I think actually that's what people come to RCC for, because we have all these sample files that are total and complete implementations of this thing that we just talked about in our video course. It would be really cool if there was something like that from Claris associated with some of the script steps, because there's implications to some of them that basically, unless you're a senior engineer and you've run into the problem or the implication, you wouldn't know it, and it's not documented on their page. And so
all right, cool. Yeah, that's the rub with that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But
Yep.
Moki's wondering why the disjointed. I mean, think about it from their perspective. If I did it for them, right, then they don't have to spend the money and the time to do it. And
no,
so,
I mean, I don't know if it's any kind of an official thing, but if they only produced a Japanese video, then we carried the water in English.
yeah, we did. But
so.
Yeah. So,
and that's fine.
That's fine. That's what we carry the water most of the time anyway. The problem is we just don't do Japanese at all ever, because I don't have anyone here who does Japanese.
So for point number one here, everybody's already probably heard it a billion times, but we now have official and explicit M1 chip support. Apple Silicon, if you got one of those new MacBook Pros or one of the new Mac Minis, those M1 chips, i.e. not the Intel chips, we have official support on both Pro and server for that. I didn't note it on the server because, but I wanted to point out. So we have talked about Hans's performance analysis. Actually, he was on. We played a chunk of his video yesterday, actually going through that, and you can go grab his database and download it and play with it on your own. Thing I will note that is very interesting is Claris published their own performance graphs. And I wanted to call that out because they posted it on their engineering blog. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I've never seen them do that.
So
they have never ever done it. Did hell freeze over and are pigs flying?
You are staring at a frozen hell if that is the case. So
where'd it go? It was there. Where'd it go? It's a whole. Is it a whole?
It is a whole article. Yes.
Blah blah blah.
With multiple graphs,
blah,
with the operating system testing approach, comparisons, and then here's your
stop.
Pro
Let's
and
see,
server.
I've not seen this. Can you zoom in a little bit? Can we zoom?
Plus.
Okay. Right.
So
faster. So this was
there's perfect.
So FileMaker server, that's about twice as fast. That's way the hell faster. About twice as fast. About 300%. Yeah. This is
the only ones that are comparable are like exports, and some of the stuff on the right side is, that's near, but you still get a boost. Those are still in the like 30% improvement range. So
find greater than, that's some sort of weird algorithm for finding greater than, finding text equal. Those are, because I think it's not going to that. You know what it's doing? It's going to the SSD for this stuff. It's not going to the RAM cache, right? If you could load this crap into RAM cache, I think those would get faster. But remember, going out the SSD, I mean, you're dealing with actually like little traces on the 7 nanometer or whatever, but you still have to run that route to the SSD. So over here.
Yeah, and the sorts also are mostly significantly faster as well.
I'm not sure container saving, container opening,
container.
And see, this is where
this is access actually. Yeah,
and this is where the sort is leading, and I just point this out because a lot of technical people here. Just do Canberra, if you want to find it, go to type FileMaker engineering blog, and you'll come to the page. This page right here, type FileMaker space engineering blog on Google, and you'll come to this page, and then it's we've talked about this many times in a live stream. So, but the sort right here, the sorting is total. The first time it does it, it's on the server side, and maybe that's what they're measuring here. But if you were measuring this on the Pro side, right, then the sort, the first time the server does it, in fact, the server would always do it for you unless you get overloaded. Then it brings it down to the cache, and your copy of Pro does it. So I understand that sort used to be this very interesting, consistent thing, and now server tries to do it for you, and it does help things out. But if the server does it, then you don't get the data to do it yourself next time, if that makes any sense, right? So in the old way, it'd be very slow on the first one, then any additional sorts were like way faster. Now the server does them, but yeah, so there's some caching. If it caches, it doesn't cache, and that's a really big topic. And the problem is the topic changes. So as a result of that, oh yeah, here you go down here. So where's the sort? Does it say it's local versus?
These are just pro. I don't know. They haven't.
Yeah, they're probably a locally.
This is the labeling that we have. Yeah,
locally running file, right? So, yeah, so that's why they did this. They did it to kiss up to Apple, which makes perfect sense. Look at that, consistently about 200% faster. Makes my heart warm. Look at my heart, so warm and fluffy. I like that.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah, and on that one, at least pro only locally, it looks like everything is about twice as fast. And there doesn't seem to be anything that's like lagging behind, like on server, that had the occasional.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right.
I just wanted to call that out. I posted as always.
Shit, I'm excited. I'm shocked. They did. I'm honest. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. What was that dodgeball movie? Cotton. I'm shocked. You have to have movie quotes, right? Ben Stiller, dodgeball. Jason Bateman.
All right, so very quick coverage of these. If you need to get application architecture, which previously would tell you if you were on, like what kind of iPhone chip or Intel Mac or whatever, now has a flag for M1. It's like AR64 or something like that, which is the kind of generic name for that chip type for the M1. Y'all have heard this. As always, web viewers on Windows now use Edge. That's mostly going to be amazing. There is a known issue with interactive containers where basically if you're trying to look specifically at a PDF, it may not work. Richard's policy on that is don't use interactive containers. I am expecting Claire's to fix the issue, however, because a ton of customer solutions, that advice aside, and it's theoretically at least considered a core part of the product. We'll see. I know you can hear Richard vibrating over here. So, and as everyone was very excited about on launch day, if you guys ever used the JSON get element, JSON set element, and you're trying to, crawl down a path in your JSON object using your little square bracket, notations or whatever, you couldn't previously have dots in those keys. You now can.
Yeah, it makes Moki's heart warm. For me, it's a peripheral issue, but that's good. If you're Kyle, then the world has completely changed orientation now, right? So,
yep.
All right, what else?
Get installed FM plugins as JSON now includes some basic system information as well, so that your scripts that are doing that can look at all of that in one place.
Okay, the only person who cares about that is Christian and Nick Orr and Jesse Barnum. So that's it. So keep going. What else we got?
I put it on my FileMaker so I can look at it later. And then so we also now have a Git system platform. There's a number for CentOS and there is a number for Ubuntu, and they are different numbers. So you can detect if you're on what would that be, 19.1 or 2, which would be CentOS, and then 19.3, I suppose, and newer, once we get there, will be Ubuntu. So that may be a useful capabilities detection or something like that if you have to. And then the final one is there were situations where using X would bloat the file. And what that means is it would have a bunch of extra data saved in the file associated with the return, whatever the return data was or the return values from your execute SQL, that would end up in the file itself. And
really?
Yeah, and so it would literally bloat the file. Like it would make it big, but the data was fluff. It doesn't need to be there. However, because it is technically valid data, I think it just isn't necessary to save it is the issue that is fixed here. It's no longer being saved. So, but you can't get rid of it immediately. Like it won't just automatically clean itself up in a backup or something like that. You have to run a recover on the file, at which point it will sweep all of that data away.
So basically, the short version is Kyle bloats our file, right? But now they fixed it in 19.3 because I knew Kyle was full of crap.
Yep.
Right? Kyle was He's
made it
blowing
huge.
our shit.
And
Kyle,
we're
you
gonna
suck.
we're gonna do a recover.
Officially. He officially sucks. I'm gonna have to give him the official suck. So bloating our stuff.
And I'll call out one final thing associated with new updates and stuff like that. I posted it in Discord once already. If someone wants to copy and paste the link across, I'll post it again so you can copy and paste it to the other places. So I'll say you want to check out the Claire's Engineering blog. They are apparently letting engineering talk to the public, if not directly, but via this venue, and that is awesome because they're posting, performance improvements on Apple Silicon. That was the article that we looked at earlier with those performance graphs from Claris's mouth. There's also a detail here. So one of the other changes on server is the data API has plugins now. It did not have plugins previously. And so here's some directions for, installing them and that sort of stuff. And then this link actually is really useful. It's the index page or whatever. So it has 3 things that are useful on it. One is all the release notes, so Cloud Pro and Server, that are associated with 19.3.1. It also has basically like some bugs that were fixed that, again, I haven't even talked about any of these at all, but it has specific demonstrations of, like, here's the scenario upon which it would happen. Here's, either the change or...
That is really good right there. And I say that being, that is really good. That is really good. I've never seen them publish the steps to reproduce the bug. Thank you, Claris. Can I, Margaret, you got to, it's like...
do you want me to switch unshare my screen so you can smile at it?
Yeah, I can't do that. I don't have that power.
You don't have that power?
Go for it. Share your thing.
Yeah. So it's like, you got to share. Oh, my video. You can see my video, right? So with my arcade and everything. So, but it's Clarice, right? So, thank you, Clarice. Thank you for giving us that information. Oh, the good Clarice. You can go scratch your cat, right? Meow, 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 meow. So, that's awesome. That's awesome. That is listening to your customers and doing something about it. It's not. We don't like lip flopping. We want action. And that right there was action. That was awesome. So tomorrow, Christian Schmidt is here. Hopefully he has good stuff. It's not, if you want to complain about quality of tomorrow's broadcast, we'll send that to support@monkeybread.de or whatever it's going to be. It should be awesome. No, thank you everyone for being here. Reminder, keep your training up to date. Keep the lights on. It's awesome. Our Moki says, our RC clients all updating to 19.3. My client software on my 19 computers is moving up to 19.3. Our servers will be moving up after we watch, another probably 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks of people squealing or not squealing. And if I don't hear any squealing, then we'll move up. That will be our official stepping stone of stability, because some of our servers are still on 18.04. And we were waiting for Claris to kind of untangle like some of the stuff that went on with page level locking and all that stuff, and kind of get it down to a good spot. We jump about once a year into a next stable stone spot, and that will be 19.3, we think. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on Moki, if you're on server 19.1, I would have advised you previously to go to 19.2 anyway. 19.1 has known record, like database engine locking issues in it associated with it. 19.1 was the very first version that they introduced the 19 locking code in. And so I would, as a general policy, actually, if you're on 19.1, I don't know if 19.3 is a better choice for you. 19.2 will drop right in on your 19.1 without issue for most of the people that I've run into. You still need to do your requirements analysis and what has changed between 19.1 and 2 and make sure you're not losing anything, etc. For example, the PHP that was removed from the server side of the product, stuff like that. But outside of that kind of normal sort of issues, if you're on 19.1, I would tell you should go to 19.2 already, even if you're uncomfortable going to 19.3. 19.2 fixes some of the significant bugs that were shipped in 19.1 with that new locking code. So
cool. All right, everyone. Well, that's about it for today. We appreciate all of it. Thank you. So, and our new visitor, J-Key Invisible. That's what's her name? Rolling? Is that JRK? What's it? Rolling? That's the gal who did Harry Potter, right? I keep saying J.K.
Oh, it's J.K. Rowling.
That's J.K. Rowling. We have J.K. Rowling there. That's great. That's awesome. All right, cool. All right, see you. Appreciate it. If you don't like dodgeball, sorry. Yeah, no, dodgeball is awesome. If you don't like dodgeball, it's really funny.
Are we good?
We're good. I think we can run the closing credits. It's awesome. Thank you.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snaps a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.